way. Take your invoices daily that you are punching and releasing. Whatever invoices are made during that day, take all those invoices, their invoice price and variable cost expenses which are incurred for that job. You will get contribution, and from that contribution you will get your daily income, and minus your daily fixed cost. From that you will know are you making money or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so lockdown, I think nobody imagined something like this in our wildest dream, that thing could come to standstill. And we never imagined all cities or anywhere that you go that there is such a few vehicles, so many few vehicles are there on the road. And main is no train, no plane. And that nobody imagined. I mean, I think in our wildest dream, nobody even thought of it that something like this could happen. And suddenly there was a need to work from home, and I think none of us were prepared to work from home, because work from home means you have to go digital. Work from home means that you have to have your databases in place. Work from home means that you have to have data on the cloud. And I don't think how many of us were prepared to work on these kind of situations. So everybody was taken by surprise, and suddenly we were asked to work from home, and we were not ready for that. Hardly any time to think or plan. I think nobody could plan anything, nobody could think anything. There was such a hurry that you have to close your shop and go home and not to come out. I think that made life very strange and miserable for all of us. Initially, most of us enjoyed that this will be a holiday, but it turned out that this holiday is a curse, that we have nothing to do. And suddenly, the business volume which was we were handling, suddenly there was drop in the volume. Suddenly, movement had stopped. Suddenly, there was pressure, more pressure from clients, and we had very less resources to manage the business. So all of these things were very new to us. You could not bill your clients properly in time, and because we were not able to set up our systems to work from home, even to coordinate among our people so we can work from home. Billing is something which is a major problem that all of us faced, and we could not bill because remote access of our system, not necessarily everybody has it. So this is what the situation ended in complete chaos. And then how do we stop this chaos? There was no way to stop the chaos. Fortunately or unfortunately, I think all of you, being a necessity, and you were given permission to work, and most of the custom brokers had worked in the field in the period of lockdown. So since March 22, 2020, what things have happened? Most of you are working, but you are working with your skeleton staff. Now for that staff also, you have to take a lot of permissions from police for their movement. Though they say that customs is working, not necessarily that all the time you can get the officer on his seat or in that department. So all those things and restricted movement and social distancing made life more miserable. You cannot travel with more people in the car or a bus. There is no public transport available. You have to hire special vehicles, and you have to make things happen. And also with all these challenges, you have to see to it that the urgent cargo is cleared in time. So this is something which is very difficult to manage, and all of you are managing this. I think a pat on the back for all of you who are operating in this difficult time. Because of the inadequate staff, I think even from your company or from loaders at the cargo complexes, airports, seaports, I think this has made lot of struggle for most of you to see to it that the shipment is delivered in time, it is intact, and you can get your customers satisfied with your work. The turnaround time has completely gone for toss. If I think from this perspective that previously, if you were able to clear your shipments within 1 hour or within half an hour, now the same shipment you would need anywhere between 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, anytime to clear it. So whatever your efficiencies were there on field, it has just gone for a toss, and it has gone for a complete toss. Actually, work from home is a very good concept provided you are tuned to it. But if you are unprepared for it, it's a biggest challenge to handle, because how do you assign work? How do you monitor work? How do you communicate? How people talk to each other on certain activities? Nothing was defined, and everybody was grappling, how do I need to complete the work? Only by sending messages on a WhatsApp and having exchange of emails is only information sharing. But how do we process it is the something which we never thought of, and that created a great challenge for all of us. I think during this period now, all of us have tuned ourselves to work from home. And to top it up, on 29th of March, MHA released an order saying that all employers, be it an industry or a shop or a commercial establishment, shall make payment of wages to their workers at their workplace on due date without any deduction for the period their establishments are under closure during the lockdown. Now, if you see the wording says, which means is that during the period of lockdown, you have to mark all your employees present and pay them salary for the period that your organization is during lockdown. Now, this was fine till April, the first lockdown end period, but now complete month of April has gone, and there is hardly any work which most of the companies have done. No company could do any work, and there is no revenue at all. And most of the small and medium-sized companies are struggling, and they are unable to find answers how we will pay salaries. And unfortunately, there is no clarity from the government that how they expect the industry to comply with this MHA order. Now, this MHA order has some complications into it. Number one, this is given on 29th of March 2020, and there the understanding was that in the first week of April, the lockdown would be lifted, but unfortunately it continued. Second, it is invoked under Disaster Management Act. Now, the problem with Disaster Management Act is that it supersedes all the acts which are in force. And the penalty in Disaster Management Act is that there is imprisonment and fine. All the penalties are non-bailable penalties in Disaster Management Act. So, if we don't comply with this from a legal standpoint, and an officer raises us an inquiry under Disaster Management Act, the penalty could be non-bailable penalty, and it can mean imprisonment. And that is the problem that everybody is facing, that how we can survive in this kind of situation. There are certain ways of looking at things. There are certain ways of reduction in salary for our people, but that is something which you need to create a background, have discussion with your people, take their consent, and then only you can implement them. There's a frequent question that is asked, that can we reduce the salary of our people? Now, all the white collar people who are drawing salary for more than 2,40,000 per annum, they don't come under the definition of wages. So there is no salary law for them. But whatever is the current salary that they are drawing, we will need to create a background, give them information saying that this is a extraordinary situation that we are going through, and this is how we need to deal with it, and covering costs is going to be a real challenge for all of us. So in this scenario, apart from cost cutting at every level, we may have to reconsider and revise the salary, or prepare for deferment of salary. And in this context, you should get a consent from them that they are okay with this and they are accepting this offer. Then you can reduce the salary and you can work with deferment or reduction of salary. Without consent, you cannot do it. So that is something which is very, very important to understand. Without consent, you cannot do it, and this is a legal stand. Illegal, there is people who are doing that. We are reducing salary, we are not giving salary, we are adjusting leaves, we are not giving bonus. Everything is fine, but even for adjusting leaves, you will have to have a consent or an application from them saying that against the money that you have given, please adjust our leaves. Then only you can do it. You cannot enforce it. It has to be from their permission. One thing you can do is that most of the people in your company may be getting ex gratia and they are above the limit of bonus. So maybe ex gratia is what you can reduce or freeze. Incentives, if you have any in your organization, incentive is something which is not which is not counted as a part of wages and salary. So that is something that you can freeze, or you can say that we have dropped that incentive scheme, or if there are incentive due for last year, you can say that we can defer those incentives. So all those things are possible. So all of you will have to creatively look at this and work out a way to get out of this provisions of the order. It is expected that government should come out with some clarification. There are cases which employers have filed against the government in Supreme Court. Yesterday, there was a news on WhatsApp, and I think most of us are getting most of the news on WhatsApp, which are forwards, which says that there is no relief for MSME sector from Supreme Court. Actually, the order says that since there is already a matter which is going on in Supreme Court, and the court has directed the government to file their response in 2 weeks. The next date of that is on 11th of May. So hence, they are not admitting, they are not giving any decision on this case, and this case should be taken along with the other case. But the news which is printed is that there is no relief, and Supreme Court has not they have not given any decision on this. So actually, the decision is, we'll have to wait and see what happens on 11th of May to get more clarity. What has happened because of all this? Our expenses have gone 3 times higher or more than that. And our productivity, we have lost it almost 3 times or more than that. So we are in a situation where we have to spend more to get less work done. And I think that is something which is very, very difficult to manage. So when you go through this situation, and if you understand the entire situation in the perspective, then there are a lot of webinars that all of us are attending, and there are a lot of economists who are giving us all kind of theories of the recovery pattern. So what they are saying, the recovery can be V-shaped. Now V-shaped means as you go down, it will quickly recover and it will go to normalcy again in the fairly short amount of time. But are they predicting that this will happen initially? And everybody has said that this will not happen during the COVID. We are not expecting V-shaped recovery. Then there is L-shaped. L-shaped is that it will go down and it will slowly recover over a long period of time. This many feel would be one of the possibilities, but most feel that there can be a U-shaped recovery, meaning this time of lockdown will go for a longer period of time, and after certain time of 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, it will start picking up. That was the theory almost around 15-20 days back. Then somebody came and said, we may expect a W-shaped recovery because China has already recovered. And they see a good amount of demand coming up. So there will be W-shaped recovery. W meaning it will go down, it will pick up, again it will go down because there will be again lockdown, it will go up. And now they are saying it is not just W, it is multiple W. So this is all fair to understand, but in all probability, I think lockdown is a reality of life, and it is not one time lockdown. There can be multiple time lockdown, and lockdown can happen unannounced, and it can take all of us by surprise, and most of us will have to be prepared at any time. I mean, if we are working today, there can be an instruction that in your office or in your office building, there is a suspect case and there is a positive case, so you cannot enter your office tomorrow. It's possible. For 14 days, your premises are locked down, or for 14 days, your area is locked down, or for certain days, this area is completely locked down for any moment. So all these possibilities brings you to this multiple W-shaped recovery, where things will stop, it will start, it will pick up, it will stop, it will start again and again. This cycle can go on and on and on. So during all this process, there's another fundamental clause which is haunting all of us, and I think that is a clause where most of us are really concerned. That's the force majeure clause in our contract. Now, I believe most of us are doing work with many companies, many small, medium sized, and large companies. This clause comes into place only with large companies where you have signed the contract with them on either a consignment based, project based, or on an annual basis. Now, what does this force majeure? Force majeure, it seems, is the most neglected clause all throughout the years, and nobody, it is there in the most of the contracts for the sake of being there. And somebody was telling me story that day that at night the husband was not able to sleep, so the wife asks him, what is the matter? And he says that I owe our neighbor 50,000 rupees, and now I don't have any money, and tomorrow I have to give him money. So wife says, no problem. She gets up and she goes to the neighbor. She rings the bell and tells the neighbor that my husband owes you 50,000 rupees, and tomorrow he is expected to pay you. He does not have any money to pay you tomorrow, so don't expect any money. And she comes back and tells her husband, now you can go to sleep. Now it's time for the neighbor to wake up. Now all of us in this force majeure, because there are news that the customers are invoked force majeure, we are acting like the neighbor, and now all of us are awake and in tremendous stress that what will happen. So to understand force majeure, we'll have to understand certain basic things about this clause. Force majeure is a clause for non-performance of contractual obligations. Now, this can be due to what? This can be due to act of God, natural disaster, war, warlike situation, labor unrest, strike, lockout, epidemic, pandemic, government order, or action. Or it can be due to extraordinary, unforeseeable events beyond reasonable control of the party. Now, if you understand, if you look at this, in force majeure, your ability to perform the contractual obligation goes down, or you are unable to perform because of any of this. Now, if your contract, first, it has to have a force majeure clause in the contract for force majeure to be invoked. Second, even if your contract has force majeure clause, you need to understand what is mentioned in the force majeure clause. If the force majeure clause in the contract only says act of God, natural disaster, war and warlike situation, and it does not mention any of the other things, that means the party cannot invoke the force majeure clause because of epidemic of pandemic. If that contract has a general term saying that any extraordinary, unforeseeable events beyond reasonable control of the party, then maybe they can invoke it. So we need to understand what is the language and what are the words which are used to describe the force majeure event in the contract. The force majeure is governed by Section 32 and Section 56 of Indian Contract Act 1872. it cannot be implied. So if you have a contract and there is no force majeure clause in that, no party can say that we can imply that it is there. It cannot be implied. The clause has to be there in the contract. If the clause is not there in the contract, the party cannot invoke force majeure. If the party invokes force majeure, they should give notice clearly indicating that they have invoked force majeure, and that notice should clearly mention that if the contract is terminated because of force majeure, or is it put on hold, or is it terminated, or it is suspended for the time being. That time can be 90 days, 150 days, and after that time both parties have the option to terminate. Now, if interestingly, if you will see on WhatsApp, there is another thing which was circulating for force majeure. It was the Finance Ministry Office Memorandum. Now, in the Finance Ministry Office Memorandum, it was released for the government purchases by the Finance Department. If you notice and if you read that or inter-office memo also, it specifies that one, for force, they have classified COVID as a force majeure event. Second, they say if you want to invoke force majeure, then it is required to give notice to other party. Third, you have to give period for suspension of the contract. For non-performance, what is the period? You are not terminating the contract. Fourth, and this is very, very important, force majeure cannot be invoked ex facto. What does it mean? It cannot be claimed ex facto. What does it mean? If you are invoking force majeure on 1st of May, you cannot make it applicable for the services which were rendered on 28th of April. It has to be for the period which is from 1st of May onwards. So most of the time, all of us are under stress that if my client has invoked force majeure clause, what will happen to my overdue bills? Will the client deny payment of those overdue bills or the bills which I have raised for the services before invoking of force majeure? In all likelihood, this is not a tenable thing to do, because in the eyes of law, force majeure act has happened after you have given the notice and you have invoked the force majeure after giving the notice, and whatever services or supplies that you have received before that, there was no force majeure applicable because the event had not happened and it was not applicable to those services or those supplies. So this is very, very important. Again, there was news that Hero Motors had invoked force majeure and said suppliers that your payment will not be given. Royal Enfield had done that. But in both the cases, they have paid the vendors for the material that they have supplied before invoking the force majeure clause in the contract. So I think this is something which we need to understand, and if it is invoked, take legal opinion, and this could be a good ground to fight the case. So this is something which we need to understand under force majeure. I think there are some comments or something like that, but I will come to it once I have finished with the presentation. Again, with force majeure, the party invoking should be able to prove. It is the responsibility of the party who is invoking the force majeure clause. It is for them to prove that there was an existence of an event which was a force majeure event. Another thing is that the party also needs to prove that it has taken some steps to avoid and mitigate the event and its effect, but it has failed to do so. So these are some important activities which we need to understand in force majeure clause that happens. Now, generally where it is applied, force majeure is generally applied in real estate in leasing agreements. But even in the current COVID situation, most of the parties who have invoked force majeure, they have invoked it with a view to renegotiate their contracts and their rent amounts. Because if you go legally, then most of the cases will not be legally tenable, because for your lease property, if you want to invoke force majeure, then the property should be unfit to occupy. And in the current situation, the property is not unfit to occupy, you are unable to occupy. So most of the cases of force majeure for real estate, for malls, for office properties, for lease properties, where the lessee has invoked force majeure, it is basically will be used for renegotiating or deferring the rent payments. But if it goes to court, it would not be easy for the party to establish that the force majeure can be applied to this event. Another is merger and application, merger agreements where you are supposed to buy out a company at a certain valuation, and because of the event, the valuation collapses. That is an event where you can apply force majeure. And third is supply contracts, where you are offering services or offering goods and supplies under the contract, and your ability to perform this conditions of the contract is hampered, and you cannot do that because of the event which has happened. So these are the major three areas where you can apply force majeure. What happens if there is no force majeure? So there is a doctrine of frustration which is available in section 56 of the Indian Contract Act. Now, what does the doctrine of frustration says? The doctrine of frustration says that you can invoke it provided it is impossible. Just try to understand, provided it is impossible for the party to perform its contractual obligations due to certain event. So here the party has to prove that it is impossible, and the event has created that impossibility for them to perform their contractual obligations. So can customer invoke and deny payments for the services performed under contract before invoking FM? I think I have answered that, because this is something most of us are under a big tension. What will happen to my bills? And in all probability, if force majeure is invoked for the past services, it will not be tenable under the law, and maybe the courts may not accept it and give a decision in favor of the party who has invoked the force majeure. But at the same time, in the event if the force majeure is invoked, it is advisable to take legal opinion, to study one clauses, the activities which are included in the clauses, the language of the clause, the applicability of the clause, and the terms and conditions of how, I mean, what is the force majeure clause saying? Is it contract is terminated, it is put on hold, it is deferred, what is it? So I think if you receive any such notice, it is advisable to take legal opinion, to take a correct stand against that force majeure clause. So I think this should help you understand this force majeure clause. Now, what has happened because of this lockdown and COVID? There are new working norms, and I think that is something which is very, very important for us to understand, because one, we'll have to spend more money complying to the new norms, and second, at the same time, we may not get that kind of output which we were expected in past to get from our people. So we may have to put extra resources, and we may end up having less output. So what are those new working norms which are mentioned in Ministry of Home Affairs notification? One is we need to have temperature screening. Second is there has to be social distancing. This is very, very important for cities like Mumbai, where space is of utmost importance, and most of the our staff is sitting in cramped spaces. Now, the social distancing norm states that at least 3 feet or 1 meter distances should be available, which practically means that we'll have to keep alternate seat vacant and work with half the staff. Third is manage workload with less people, because there is a problem of commuting, there is a problem of public transport, there is social distancing in public transport, there is social distancing in private transport. So not necessarily all people can work with full strength, and they will have to rethink on the strength that they should have in the office There can be staggering, there can be alternative working, plus there can be work from home. So they have suggested staggered working, frequent sanitization and disinfection, which I think sanitization and disinfection is something which we hardly think in India, and this is going to increase your housekeeping expenses to a great level, because this disinfection and sanitization of various areas in your office, in your factory, I mean, 3 times we are expecting that whatever we were doing earlier and cleaning our factory, we'll have to do minimum 3 times to keep it clean and sanitized and disinfected. Fourth is work from home for employees whose age is 65 plus and employees with children below 5 years. Again, I think this is something all the senior people who are working with us, we need to give them assignment to work from home, but unfortunately if they are not techno savvy, then work from home is a very difficult challenge for all of them. And also for employees with children below 5 years, again we'll have to find out which are the activities which can be done on work from home basis, because most of us will have to rethink on this. Also we'll have to rethink on it ki work from home, how it will happen. Fifth is health insurance cover for our working employees. All those who are going to attend office, if they are not covered under ESIC or if they are not covered under Ayushman Bharat, then it is the organization's responsibility for their health coverage. I think this is another additional overhead which we need to plan for and take this coverage. Again, what this I have already mentioned, the transport facility with only 4 people who can travel in car, or 1 person who can travel on bike, or maybe 20 people who can travel in bus. I think this is another cost which is going to increase, and we will have to spend higher amount of money. Again, no large meeting and non-essential visitors should be avoided. This is again important because now we'll have to think of digital, we'll have to think of video conferencing, which we'll have to think of conference call. And I think in last 40-45 days, all of us have got well acquainted with all these tools, but I think we'll have to use it widely across the organization and make things available to our people also, so they can also work on these counts. So what does the expert say? Most of the experts are saying that economy will be badly hit. Now, when they say economy will be badly hit, and they are also projecting 1% GDP or negative GDP for India, which means that we will have no growth, or we will be degrowing. And this is true because we have already lost so much of business and transaction during last 45 days. But in addition to that, this phenomena is not only restricted to India or Maharashtra or Mumbai. This is a worldwide phenomena. And as a custom broker, you need to understand that there will be implications of it across. Your imports will be hampered, your exports will be hampered, because they say that there will be a demand side challenge. What does demand side challenge means is that your customers may cancel the order at last minute. The order will get stuck. If the order is shipped, they may say that we don't want to take delivery, and they can reject the order. The inventory will get stuck. They will have to sell it at discount. So all these possibilities exist when we are saying that there will be demand side challenges. Especially they are saying that in capital goods, if you have orders for machines, your customer may say that they will defer their capex and they will not buy, and they will buy it after 1 year. So if you have procured the material, you are stuck. Now, if you are depending on certain projects, based on which you have forecasted your shipments and your business, and if those projects are put on hold or are deferred or are cancelled, your entire business projection is going to get hit. So this is something which is going to happen, and at the last minute, this demand side changes will happen. At the last minute, you can expect a call from customers saying, "Aapko gaadi lagane ko bola tha. You were supposed to give me this service, but sorry, the consignment is put on hold." So all these kind of possibilities exist. There will be supply side challenges. Supply side challenges because the suppliers will have less material. The suppliers can export less. because there will be money problem, or they can manufacture less because of all the restriction that they are there from the government side. So all the supply side challenges will create shortages, and will create shortages to an extent that it will increase cost. To give you an example, sanitizer, the demand for sanitizer during the lockdown has gone up by 1200 times, and nobody imagined it, and everybody saw it as an opportunity to get into a sanitizer manufacturing activity. But once everybody started jumping into it and prices were driving crazily mad, the government put restriction on MRP, and then most of those who were trying to get make extra money through sanitizer manufacturing activity, it became unviable because the input cost itself has gone up almost by 200%. So all these supply side challenges are going to happen. So again, it means is that it will increase cost of manufacturing, cost for services to be provided. Third thing, disturb supply chain and logistics. Today the biggest problem is that your vehicles are not getting unloaded. The drivers and cleaners of the vehicles have gone, and they have gone to their native place, and the number of vehicles plying on the road may go down. The transporter will start now asking that, okay, earlier they were giving you credit, but now they will say that you will have to give me immediate payment or an advance payment, without which I cannot work. So again, there would be a shortage kind of situation which will be there in the market. So I think this is another thing which we need to understand. This disturbed supply chain is going to impact us all. So what it means is that your overhead cost is going to go up high. Your productivity against that overhead is going to be low. We may have to, for a time being, put a stay on profitability, where I have said forget profitability, but you will have to make money and break even at least, and not go negative. Because if you go negative, then there is a challenge. And we will have stretched cash flow. And especially for companies which are small and medium sized, this is a moment of truth. Because we don't know what is going to happen, and it's a question of survival. So everybody is saying that cash is king and you should use cash wisely. So where is the cash? So if you understand where is the cash, I think my first advice to all of you is to look inward and find out where is the cash which is there with you. One, it is there, so you have to count it, that you have a bank balance. Can you have an extended bank credit? If you are having a bank facility for working capital, or you have an OD against your fixed asset, today if you are enjoying an OD of 1 crore, can you get a OD of 1.2 crore or 1.5 crore against the same asset? If not, if you are not availing any bank facility, do you need to have that facility in place, so in case of emergency, cash is available to you? Third is outstanding receivable. I have a separate slide for this, but my humble request to all of you is that please try to collect your outstanding in time. Please rethink on your terms of payment. In case if it is required, try to have advance payment for the expenses that you need to mitigate for paying for that consignment. And because the person that you are dealing with at the client's end, his KRA is not paying you on time. It is your KRA to give service and get money on time. So if your key result area is to get that, you have to talk to the person on the other side who is giving you business. You also will have to talk to his accounts person to ensure that your bills are received, they are booked in time, and there are no dispute into it. If there is a dispute, resolve it immediately so it can be booked and you can receive the payment in time. I know that CHA payment or custom brokers payments are not on the priority of the customer. The customer's priority is to get his import in time or his export in time. And once that is done, then his priority changes, and it is never to pay you on time. So you have to communicate regularly with your customer, give him outstanding list on every 7 days, 15 days, follow up, show what is outstanding, what is overdue, what is payable, it is overdue by what date. cry, cajole, but get your money out, because it is your money which is there, which is not getting paid in time, and that is going to hurt you. Fourth is supplier payable, if possible. But this is the last resort that you should use, because there are very less chances. But supplier payable, can you get an extended credit if you have a good reputation and if you've been paying on time for all this year? This is a possibility which is available to you, but it can happen only and only if you have a good track record, and this should be the last thing that you should look at. And finally, the cash can you infuse your funds? That is something which you need to look at. So I think that is what you need to understand. Okay, going to next. Just a minute, huh? There's something. How do I'm sorry, I have opened a chat box. Now it is not going. I'm unable to close it. Oops.
Sandesh sir, you can minimize it.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that, but it is not going into minimize. I'm just trying to do that. It is in escape also, it is not going, and suddenly it started. And share also, it is not going. Oh shit. Because there are messages which are happening, so that's why I thought of, where is my...
There is an option on the top left hand side of the chat box to click like a small down arrow where you can click and say close.
It does not say that it is... okay. Okay. Now I can go. Thanks. Okay. But again, it is not going. Okay. Oh, again it has stopped. Okay. Okay, now you can see?
Yes, all clear.
Okay, thanks. Technology. We have to learn along the way. Okay, one more important piece of advice from my side to all of you. All of you have some customers who are having a lot of outstanding with you. And if you go by the rule of 80-20, it is 20% customers who will have 80% outstanding. So my humble request to all of you is that invest in knowing efforts and collect customers' financials. This is available if it is a private limited company, if it's a public limited company, it is available on a meager payment of 100 from ROC. If it's a public limited company, it's published data, it is available. For LLP also it is available. For proprietary or for partnership companies, it is not available. You may have to ask from the client as a part of your KYC. But what you need to do with those financials is know customers' average payment cycle. So how will you know that? There are two things to understand. Divide the customer's purchase by 365. 365 is the number of days in a year. So you will get the daily purchase that the customer is making. Now this purchase amount you will get somewhere in the notes, because nowadays in balance sheets you get direct material used and all those kind of things. So in that inventory, you will get to know, in that schedule, you will get this purchase amount divided by 365 and go to the creditors in the balance sheet and divide that creditor figure by daily purchase. You will get to know the average payment days that the customer is paying to its vendors. The second thing is that also know when customer realizes his payment. Now, how do we know that? So again, a simple trick. Divide the customer's sale amount, which is sale of goods, services that he has done, by 365, and you will get their daily sales. And that daily sales you divide customers' data, you divide by the daily sales, you will get to know when the customer is getting paid from his customers. So I think these are very, very important figures to know, because from the first in customer payment cycle, in this figure, the customer's trend is 150 days and he has promised you payment in 30 days. You will never get this payment without follow-up, and you will not just have to do follow-up, but you will have to do rigorous follow-up. Your initial transaction will happen smoothly, but once you regularize business with the customer, customer has a sizable outstanding with you, customer will give you money promises and only fulfill it to half. So this is something which is a trend. So when you know this, you know how you need to follow up, how do you need to chase the customer. Even you can have a clear-cut understanding and discussion with the customer that this is how I will operate. Beyond this credit limit, I cannot operate. So you will have a clear understanding with this. So I think this is very, very important to know. The data from ROC, you can get it for 100 rupees, and with payment of 100 rupees, you will know the entire balance sheets which the customers have filed over a period of time, his charges, his loans. But I think it's worth an investment if the customer is enjoying credit of lakhs or maybe crores. So that 100 rupees is worth every amount of investment that you will know, because you will know what kind of efforts that you need to know to recover from the customers from this kind of activity. Now to collect, I would request you to plot your outstanding in this fashion. And what does it mean? This is an aging statement. So if you see in aging statement, I will explain it to you. These are customer names. This is his total outstanding. These are total outstanding of the customer. And this is outstanding which is 1 to 30 days, 31 to 60 days, 61 to 120 days, 121 180 days, 181 to 365 days, 366 days and above. Now this kind of statements are available in all ERPs, in all your tally accounting. Most of the accounting software can give you this. So what it means is that if I have to read this statement, this is customer A, his total outstanding is 20 lakhs, and that 20 lakhs is divided like this. So his major outstanding of 18 lakhs is between 861 to 120 days. Now there is something which I have done. I have taken total of my total outstanding, and I have seen that per customer what is the percentage. So if you see out of the entire customers that those are plotted here, 1, 2, 3, they constitute your 82% of outstanding, and this is very important to understand. Again, second thing is that you need to find out what is the daily average sale that you are doing to this customer. What it means is that the customer A is having outstanding of 20 lakh 60,000, and his daily average sales that you are doing. Now daily average sale, you can take a period of a month, of 6 months, or of an year. Take that period sale to the customer and divided by those number of days, you will get a daily average sale. So the daily sales outstanding that the customer has from your sale is 91 days. And now if you see the beauty of this statement, you will see that 1 crore 27 lakhs that customer E, the outstanding amount is, he is paying me in 30 days. His daily sales outstanding is 30 days. While customer F, who has 92 lakhs as outstanding, and he may be one of my top customers, and my people are saying that he is one of the best customers, he has 91 days of outstanding. And customer G has 20 days of average outstanding, means their payment is better. So I think we need to analyze all our customers in this fashion to understand what is our outstanding, where do we need to focus and rigorously follow up. Because if you follow up these guys, that customer G and E, and their term is 45 days or 30 days payment, I think you will be doing injustice to them. If you want to prepone the payment period, that is fine, then you can talk to them. But if you follow them up rigorously for payment, especially this customer G, if his payment term is 30 days and if he is paying to you in 20 days, there will be a lot of problems and the customer may stop business. So I think this is very important way to understand the outstanding, understand what to collect, how to collect, and what to follow up. If you see customer A, customer C, these are all troublemakers that we need to look at and also follow up for collection. So put a credit limit to monitor and control outstanding. What is the credit limit? If you say that this customer has an outstanding of 20 lakhs and his daily average sale is of 22,000, so you can put a credit. I can give you 1 month's credit of your total business for 1 month. So you can say that there will be limit of X amount. So that X amount can be 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs. So you will have to arrive with certain formula, and beyond this, if your outstanding goes, you will have to clear the outstanding first, then only I will have to process the next. Otherwise, I will not be in a position to process it. This will lead to the fear that I will lose customer. But if the customer is good and if he is happy with your services, believe me, the chances of customer leaving you will be very less, because it is not only the payment and the extended outstanding is the only criteria that he is giving you business. If you have good service, good rapport, good credibility, you know the customer's requirement well, you are expecting and you're meeting his expectations, there are very high chances that you will not lose the business. And if you lose the business, and if it is in this category, you might have to rethink that is it worthwhile to do business with these kind of customers who are only looking at credit. I think this is a controversial statement, but still you will have to evaluate your customers and their credibility and your services to understand where do you stand in customers horizon. If you are not in one of the few people where he can value your services, anyways it is going to be a trouble time for you. So you need to be in his circle where he values your services. Conserve cash. I think conserve cash, you need to communicate. You need to communicate with the customers that we need early payments. You need to communicate with your employees that we need to save wherever possible. For that, you need to understand what is your current work volume. And with that work volume, what kind of expenses that you're paying and what kind of expenses that you need to pay. Generally, most of us are doing incremental budget. Incremental budget means मेरा 10 लाख का सेल है और मेरा 8 लाख का खर्चा लास्ट ईयर हुआ है. So this year, what I am doing is that my 10% sale will go up and my expenses also will go up by 10%. Forget incremental budget. Understand what is your volume and draw a zero-based budget. Zero-based budget meaning you have started the business today and this is the volume that you expect. Now what you should spend now, considering the infrastructure, considering your people, considering the communication charges, considering your transport charges, anything. So you will have to start building zero-based budget, because today is not the time that you can support incremental budget. Because to support incremental budget, you will have to have a large amount, you have to have the same amount or more sale, which is not going to be possible. Many cases I have seen that the sale itself will go down anywhere from 30 to 50%. And if that goes down to that extent, it will not be viable to meet the current expenses. So we'll have to draw a zero-based budget and we need to understand what we can do to stop certain wastages and certain processes we can combine which will save us money. It can be time saving, it can be money saving, all those things that you need to do, because today your time is also going to be equally important, because in the same time you are forced to do less work. So that's why your time is going to be very, very important. So you need to look at all the processes and decide the activities which you can stop. And when you stop those activities, nothing is going to happen and you can run your business as smoothly as possible. Because in every company, these kind of leakages are 100% available. And these kind of leakages we can stop. It can be process related, it can be people related, it can be infrastructure related, it can be resources related that we have given. Everything that we need to look at very closely. Help reduce wastages and save money. That is what I have said. Get a line of credit sanction from the bank. If you are not availing bank facility, take a bank facility as a backup purpose. If you are availing bank facility, just check if enhancement is possible, and don't use it. Uh, um, don't use the facility as and when required. Use it very judiciously. It is not available for free. And fifth is avail moratorium. Reserve Bank has given moratorium of 3 months on term loan, car loan, unsecured loans, and interest moratorium on working capital loans. I know it will cost you little extra, but in today's time, conserving cash by having moratorium is a better option because you don't know where you will need money. Especially, most of us have car loans or unsecured loans from NBFCs, and we are hesitant to write to all these car loan companies which are from NBFCs. Please do write to them, ask for moratorium, ask for interest reduction, ask for extension of terms if required. At the most, they will say no, but at least you have tried from your side. I think that is very important. Again, conserve cash. Now we say that work from home. Work from home again has a challenge. You will have to evaluate the possibilities and estimate the volume, what work can happen through home and what volume of work that you can give it on work from home basis. Second, you will have to set up processes and coordinate mechanism and how it will happen, because in person, when people are sitting next to each other, it is better to coordinate. Even in those cases, we find today that people are sending mail to each other in premises when they are sitting next to each other. Now imagine a process where they are sitting at your home, they are not talking to each other, they are even sending mail to each other, and there is no possibility that they can communicate to each other on certain problems. It is going to be a difficult task. So you need to have a coordination mechanism, you need to set processes. If you don't have an ERP, if you don't have an integrated system, if you don't have a customer CRM system, this is possible with smart logic. You can use Google Sheet, you can use Excel Sheet, but this work log can be maintained. There are simple processes that you can do it. Clarify reporting patterns and evaluation. At the end of the day, what does your people need to report? To whom they do need to report about the work that they have done? What updates are expected? You have to be very clear. Otherwise, this work from home is going to be very difficult concept to follow. Renegotiate employment and compensation term with consent. I think this we have discussed. With consent, you can renegotiate and compensation terms and employment terms. Even one of the possibility with work from home is that you may have a freelancers working from home. So that is something which is possible, but you need to look at it. Freeze new recruitment. I think this is a time where you need to seriously think about, do you need new people for doing the same job? If you need new people for doing some new job, and if that new job is going to be very, very critical for success, then only you think of recruitment. Otherwise, freeze new recruitment. Your work volume as it is going down and will go down. So you may not need excess people to manage it. Stop with them. Take employee consent to stop ex gratia and incentive plan. I think this also we have discussed. So this is something which you need to really think of. Defer capital expenses. You will have to defer all capital expenses which are not needed. There is only one area where you may need to do capital expenses, and that is for working from home or from digital expenses, the digitization of your office. These are the things where you need to do capital investment in terms of data security, because that is work from home. There are a whole lot of possibilities about data security and data being leaked. So how you will manage that? For that you need to do capital expenses, but otherwise I would not advise to do any of the capital expenses. So this is something which you need to understand. And if need be, and if you think that it is very, very important after doing all these things that you need to right size your organization, you have to take a difficult call, because in today's time, organization survival is a priority. If organization survives, then its employees can survive. Without it, they cannot survive. This is very, very important, and you need to seriously think on this. This is one more concept, and I would urge all of you, and this is a very pretty simple concept which most of you can apply. Only thing is that it is our inertia that we are not doing it. I would request monitor your daily profit. And how do you monitor that? You need to plot all your fixed cost. Fixed cost is interest on your loans. Fixed cost is in all the interest that you are paying. Depreciation, salaries, including salaries to promoters, their withdrawals, wages, utilities, rent, property taxes, insurance, key man insurance, marketing expenses, communication expenses, professional fees, administration fees, repairs and maintenance, CSR expenses. CSR, in our kind of businesses, we do a lot of donations. So even CSR expenses, all these are your fixed expenses. Go to your balance sheet or your budget that you have prepared from a zero-based budget and look at all these items and try to understand what is the money that you are spending. This money that you are spending, this total amount divided by number of working days. If you are taking for an year and if the amount is 1 crore, your number of working days is not 365. It will be somewhere around 280 or 290. Please try to understand this, that you will have to exclude Sundays. If you are not working on alternate Saturdays, exclude alternate Saturdays. If you are having 5-day Diwali holiday, exclude those. You have to calculate number of working days, because this is a figure that will give you what is the daily money that you are spending. When you open your business and when you close the shutter, what is the amount that you're going to spend every day, day in, day out basis. If you rely on your last year's balance sheet, you can get it from balance sheet. But today, if you also work out a zero-based budget, you can also get it from that. But just try to understand what is your daily cost. You can do it for your organization. If you have import division which is separate, you can do it for import division, export division, any division. So this is what you need to understand, but you need to know this figure. And at 12 midnight, if somebody asks you what is your daily cost, you should be in a position to answer this. Second, with this, whatever services that you are providing, its selling price minus variable expenses, whatever money that you spend, not the fixed cost, whatever money that you spend for doing the services. If you are importing a material for the client, and at customs there is expense that you are doing for xeroxing, for documentation, for sealing, for some fees that you are paying. So if 5,000 is the selling price and 3,200 is the expenses, 1,800 is what you are earning, which will cover the fixed cost which we have talked about in this slide. So understand, this 1,800 is covering the earlier cost. And that's how many jobs that you have done in this nature and what is your daily income. And this daily income, what is the total? Against that, what is the daily fixed cost and what is the plus or minus. You can do it this way, or there is another way. If this is not possible, you find that it is very difficult for you to bifurcate your services in certain blocks, you can also do it this way. Take your invoices daily that you are punching and releasing. Whatever invoices are made during that day, take all those invoices, their invoice price and variable cost expenses which are incurred for that job. You will get contribution, and from that contribution you will get your daily income, and minus your daily fixed cost. From that you will know are you making money or not. Don't think that this is a tedious exercise. This is an exercise you will have to do, because it is a question of survival for most of us. Don't think that this will be a 500-line report. Let it be 500-line report. Depute somebody, a team of people who can do this on daily basis, and every morning 9 o'clock this report is given to you or your department heads. They have to know what they have done yesterday and where do they stand. If you don't know this, it is going to create a blunder. My request to all of you, not to ask your accountant, your CA, your finance person to do it, because they will try to match to the nearest zero. They will try to give you a data which is very, very accurate to the nearest zero. And for this purpose, you don't need that, because once they start doing that, you will never get the report in one day. You will get the report. I'll be surprised if you can get the report after 1 year. And that is not the purpose of this report. This is management accounting for taking day-to-day decisions for the person who are managing the work. So this is very, very important. Don't expect your accounts department to do it. Find smart fellows who know Excel well, who understand MIS well in your organization. You will get those people. Put them on the job. They can be junior also, but their job is to just plot this and give you these figures. Put somebody to verify these figures so you don't take a wrong decisions or you don't get a wrong data. But this is very, very important, because this is going to help you understand where do you stand on day-to-day basis. And today, in times of survival, this is going to be a very, very crucial exercise for you. So this is very, very important for you to look at. Now the last part is selling more. I think this is one of the interesting things that we will have to look at. First and foremost, because with the outstanding report and because with the contribution and daily expenses report, you will know what kind of services you are very good at and what kind of clients that you are serving good and who are good clients for you. Decide on what kind of clients and what type of clients that you need to serve. Second is decide which service you really want to promote. If you are doing a service of 1000 rupees and the margin there is 800 rupees, and if you are doing multiplication of that, that service will be more lucrative for you. Or it's a service where you are billing 50,000 rupees and you are getting 5,000 rupees from that, but it is only one job in a day or maybe one job in a week. So which is the service that you really want to promote, where you have strength? Third is communicate with customer. With your existing customer, communicate with him, try to understand his problem, try to understand his forecast, try to understand his budget. With existing customer, understand what he wants to do. Can you sell something additional to him? If he is only doing import from you, can you, and if you are having export facility, can you sell that to him? Can you take references from him? This is something which is very important. References we are not very good at, but we'll have to ask. And for this, you will have to train your operational people rather than your sales people to do it, because operational people will have more thicker network and good influence over the customer, existing customer from that part of it. So your operational people need to be trained for this. For lost customers, call them, find out what is their situation, find out how they are doing, find out what work volume they are doing, who is the other company who is serving them. Don't sell until they ask. Here the mistake most of us make is that we call lost customer, we talk to them, and then we ask for business without them telling us that they need a help. The moment there is some discussion where they are saying that they are stuck with something and they need such help, then you can ask for business, because then you can have your story made that I have done with the deal, dealt with a similar situation, and this is how I work with. So I think this is something very, very important to understand. With lost customer, don't sell until they ask. Otherwise, you will not get that business. Another thing is that be clear on your terms of business and do not deviate. If you are asking for advance, stick to advance. If you are asking for 30 or 45 days credits, stick to it. If you are asking that your services will include and not include certain things, stick to it. Many of the time, out of our own generosity, we try to give many things extra without charge, free of cost to customer, and we make customer habitual of all those things, and then he later just refuses to pay for that. So I think this is very, very important for you to understand what you will deliver, what will be the terms of business, and please do not deviate. Credit limit is one thing which helps you discipline your organization in terms of taking jobs and doing it in time and collecting money in time. If the credit limit is reached, your system should not allow the person to process job, or there should be an escalation which needs an explanation. Escalation with explanation of a higher authority is extremely important for credit limit to work. Otherwise, it will not work. Otherwise, it will be just an entry and just a process. Check customers' financials and payment positions, draw his balance sheet and understand, because you are going to have a lot of exposure with all the customers. So wherever the exposures of large, please have a financial understanding and his payment position understanding by doing his understanding his financials. Now there are a lot of data which are available from your customs. You will get data from some export data. You will get data. There are import Genie. You will get data. These databases, you will have to work on those and find out who are the customer you want to target. Because if you get this data in Excel or in Google Sheet, you can filter that data. You can find out from HSN number what kind of commodity they are buying, from where they are buying, or from where they are to whom they are selling. You can get a sector wise data from where his shipments are coming from, where his shipments are growing. If you want to focus on certain sector, you can get a sector wise sectorial data. So all those data, if you can spend time on data and understand the realities of that data, and then select that data properly and then approach customer, it will be useful for you. And my humble request here again to all of you is that don't ask your salespeople to work on this, because they don't have generally the skill, and they don't have also the tenacity to sit at the data and analyze it. They are more focused on talking to people, going out, meeting people, discussing and talking about future and opportunities. So they are not the right ones to work on data. Create a small team which can work on data, give them a logic and supervise with that logic. Whatever is the database that you come out with, give that to your salespeople so they have a ready-made data to work on. If you give it to your salespeople, 99% of the time you will not get result, and they will say that data is of no use. So I think that is where you need to be really careful. Another thing is that if suitable, contact these customers with real value proposition, how you can help them save. Another big problem in sales that we see is that we go do cold calling, tell that I am from ABC company, I do this work, we are in the business from 1979, we are doing 30, for last 40 years we are doing business, and for your kind information, no customer is interested in you. Neither he is interested when you are established. It was in 30s, 40s, 60s, 70s, he gives a damn. But once you have a data, you know which sector he is working on, you know which commodities he is working on, you can always talk to him very differently, saying that I know you have so many shipments, your shipments are going from this port, and this is the kind of commodity that you are using, these are the sectors that you are using, and I can help you add value in this business by giving you some smart deals or something like that. I think there you will get attention of your customer. If you go on the old way of selling and giving all information about you, it is not going to work, period. That time has gone and nobody has time to hear all about this. So I think this is something as a salesperson, and I think in this case, your operations people would be more better to sell better. But again, here you need to have some Excel proficiency, some people with Excel or Google Sheet proficiency to help you filter the data and give you the right targets. So finally, I come to the end. Know your ROTI. ROTI is return on time invested. Your time is going to be precious. How you are going to utilize is going to be very precious. Your time is going to cost extreme amount of money, because today, where you invest that time and what result that you get across the organization are going to be very, very important for you to understand and stay afloat and survive in this time. Know your ROI, return on investment. Whatever money that you have deployed in the business, what is the return that you are getting? Is it negative? Is it breaking even? Is it positive? Is it 2%, 5%, 10%, whatever it is, you have to know it. Don't wait for your CA. Don't wait for your accountant. Don't wait for your finance executive. Do it yourself. Try to build a mechanism which will give you an indicative figure. If it is 4%, it does not matter if it is 3.75 or 4.28. It's 4. And with that, you can take decision. If it's 8%, it does not matter if it is 7.278 or 8.29. It's 8%. So you can take decisions on that. And finally, I think let the new chapter begin where you will be more agile, more adapted to the situation, and you can do better work. Thank you.